The eyes see, and then the heart's desires. The same amount of sweat was on everyone's forehead, but because
Reb Asaf Aaron Prisman on the Parsha. This week, Parshas Shelach and Korach. Perception or deception?
Shalom to everyone. I would like to share with you a Dvar Torah that mitzvah Hashem will be relevant both to the Parsha we laying over here in Eretz Yisrael, which is Parshas Korach, and also for the Parsha for Chutz La'aretz, which is Parshas Shelach Korach. We'll start off with bringing the last Parsha within Parshas Shelach Korach, the Parsha we lay in Chutz La'aretz this week, which is the famous Parsha of Tzitz, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, tell Bnei Yisrael and tell them about the heilige mitzvah of Tzitz. And he says, you know what's unique about the mitzvah of Tzitz? You look at the Tzitz, and we all know that Tzitz represents all the 613 mitzvahs. There's a Chazal teach us that it connects to the 613. The numerical value of Tzitz plus a couple of other combinations yields 613. And by looking at the Tzitz, there's another midrash that says it's going to remind us, the original tchelis that's on the Tzitz will remind us of Kisei HaKavod, will remind us of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and will be a constant reminder of what life is all about, which is Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, that will secure us doing mitzvahs. That's why I said, Uri'ise moisoi, we will see the Tzitz, and as a result, it will trigger us to remember, Uschartem es kol mitzvahs Hashem, it will trigger us to remember to perform the mitzvahs, Ve'asisem moisam, to perform the mitzvahs. And here's the punchline, at least for our Dvar Torah, Ve'lo taturu acharei levavchem ve'acharei einechem asher atem zoinim achareihem. And as a result, we will not spy after our hearts and after our eyes to do whatever we have the natural instinct to go away from Hashem, to our taivas, whatever it is. So again, the idea we're representing right now is that Tzitz will be a constant reminder of what life is all about, which is Torah and mitzvahs, connecting to Hashem, and hence we will not follow our hearts and eyes to do our desires that will take us away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The order of the pasuk is, that's what I want to emphasize here, is Achrei levavchem, don't spy after your hearts, and then after your eyes, which will trigger you to do something that is not 100%. Rashi, on the spot, brings down the famous Midrash Tanchuma, and he says, Ha'ayin roya, the eyes see, and then Halev choimed, which means the heart desires, Ve'aguf oises ha'avera, and the body commits a sin. The question begs itself, and I saw many Mefarshim ask this question, how can the Midrash Tanchuma that Rashi quotes say this Jasha? This Jasha doesn't fit with the Pasuk at face value, because the Pasuk, the order of the Pasuk is, look at your tzitzis, and as a result, you will not follow, it says first your hearts, then your eyes. Whereas the Midrash Tanchuma says that one should not, the way it works is the eyes first see, and then the heart desires, and then the body goes ahead to perform the sin, the Avera. The question begs itself, so how is this a drasha from the Pasuk? The Pasuk says the other order. Even though what the Midrash Tanchuma says makes a lot of sense, in reality we know a person sees, that triggers him to want something in his heart, the heart desires, and then he goes on to perform the Ma'aseh Avera, the sin. So, but still, how can he learn it from this Pasuk? I saw this being asked by Meir Chodash. Reb Asaf showed it to me as well. I saw Rav Mishkovsky Zatzal ask the same question, and they both say a similar answer, which I want to share with you. They say that of course in reality we know what happens is, technically speaking, the eyes see, and then the heart desires, and then the next step is to go ahead and do the Ma'aseh Avera, the sin, and Tzitz is supposed to save us from that. But really, it's two different perspectives of looking at things, because it all depends on where you're holding with your heart. Based on that is what you interpret that you see with your eyes. Meaning, of course, technically speaking, like we said, the Midrash Tanchuma, we know that's true. A person views things with his eyes. As a result, it triggers his heart to desire, and as a result, he goes on to perform the Ma'aseh Avera. But from a different perspective, both are true, but there's another perspective, and that's what the pasuk is representing. The order of the pasuk, that it says, Lo tatu achei levavchem, because the pasuk is teaching us, you know what you see? What you see and the way it affects you is based on where your heart is holding already before you see. Because the heart is the one that tells the eyes how to interpret what it sees. It reminds me of a famous story. The Chazon Ish once went with his friends on Shabbos, with his whole Chabura. They were walking on Shabbos, and at the end of the walk, one of the Bachurim turned around to the Chazon Ish and says, I can't take it anymore. Look at the way women are dressed here. It's so not sanua, it's not right. Chazon Ish said, I don't know which woman are you talking about, but I can tell you one thing. If it bothers you so much, then you have to do cheshbon nefesh. You have to analyze why it bothered you so much. If I didn't even see it, and for you, you saw it and it bothered you so much, something's not right. You have to work on yourself on that nekuda. That's what we're talking about. The heart is interpreting what the eyes see. Meaning perception, the way you perceive things, is based on your heart. This goes nicely with a famous Ma'amar Chazal in several places that says, Tzadikim libam birshusam. Tzadikim, they're in control of their hearts. It's in their reshus. As opposed to Reshaim, the wicked people, hem birshus libam. They're totally dependent on wherever their hearts take them. Which means that tzaddikim that have worked on their hearts and they already ensured that their hearts are in sync with Retzon Hashem, not their own natural instinct and Retzonos, but rather Retzon Hashem, then they showed that they are in charge of their hearts. And they made sure that their hearts are in sync with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that defines what they see and how they interpret it. As opposed to the Rishonim, no, their lave is whatever they, on a selfish level, taiva is what they desire. And that's what's in control, as opposed to Retzon Hashem. As promised, we can now connect this also to the parasha that Mirza Hashem will be laying to the Sedra over here in Eretz Yisrael. Parshas Korach. At the beginning of Parshas Korach, Pasuk Zayin, it says as follows. Rashi says, Korach, who was a smart person, shepikeach haya, ma ra'a leshtut zeh. How can he do such a foolish thing and try to jeopardize Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership? That we know it came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How can he challenge that? Why would he do such a foolish thing? And he answers, because he saw that big people are going to come out from his future generations, from his offspring. And he says, can it be? Amar, efshar kol hagdula azois atida la'amod mimeni v'ani edoim. Can it be such a thing that such a big person will come out from me, Shmuel, Hanovi, etc., and I won't be a big person? And that triggered everything. That's what Rashi tells us. And as a result, he started challenging Moshe Rabbeinu. He appointed someone chashuv to do a chashuv position, and he said, what? It should have been someone from my family. How can it be? Who do you think you are? Etc. Why? We see also that what triggered him was where his heart was. If his heart was totally just to accept what Hashem gave his way, then he wouldn't say anything. It's only because his eyes saw kavod. Oh, I want the honor. It should come to me. Why is it going to Moshe Rabbeinu? That's what triggered everything. Which is exactly what we're saying. His eyes misinterpreted what they saw. Why did it misinterpret? Because of the way the heart was seeing things, which is the whole nekuda. The nekuda is, to summarize the concept over here, the yesoid, is that of course we know that the eyes see, and then the heart desires, and the body goes on to do the Ma'aseh Avera. And that's what the Midrash Tanchuma is saying. But the Pasuk is telling you from a different perspective. You know why the heart is the first parameter that appears in the Pasuk? Because we know that your eyes see based on what your heart, the way you worked on yourself, on your hearts. And if a person made sure his heart is synced with Retzon Hashem, he's going to interpret what he sees on a totally different level. I just want to end off with a story. I think it's fair that I can repeat stories every 2 years. I want to say a story by Rav Biderman that it's a true story, but I want to connect it to the concept we're saying today. A couple of years ago, I'm not sure if it was the Motzei Pesach or Motzei Yom Kippur, but for sure I know this story happened, and I remember I heard it 2 years ago from Rav Biderman, and he said many people in Bnei Brak were waiting for the bus, the 402 bus to go back to Yerushalim. They have parents in Bnei Brak, they came there for the Chag. They're waiting 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It's insane. 2.5 hours they're waiting for the bus. Finally, they can see from afar a bus approaching. They're all getting excited. Finally, we're going to get home. Excited. I don't know if to call it excited. They were a bit upset. Finally, the bus comes and they can't believe it. They cannot believe it. It doesn't make sense. It's the 318 bus to Rehovot. They went on the bus and they went a bit crazy. And they said, what is this? How can they do this to us? Look, don't have Rachmanus. There's elderly people. There's young babies here. Please, just switch the number and take us to Yerushalayim. We're begging you. We need this. Please, please. After a couple of minutes of begging, the driver looks at them and he says, okay. And he switches the number to the 402. In one instant, the whole attitude changed. Instead of being upset at him and screaming, everyone started applauding, clapping hands. The Sephardi people over there gave him a misheberach. Instead of cursing him out, they gave him blessings. Everything changed within an instant. Okay. The driver continues to go, and as they get closer and closer to Yerushalayim, one of these people on the bus comes up to him and says, excuse me, driver. First of all, thank you for what you did. It's very nice of you. But I have one question. Surely you know that in this day and age, everything's in cameras. For sure they have a GPS device tracking where you're going. And you're probably going to lose your job tomorrow. Why in the world would you do such a thing? I mean, we all know the concept chayecha koidmim. Why are you giving up your job for us? Why would you do such a thing? So the driver says to him, between me and you, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Of course, I know there are cameras everywhere today. I was back where all the workers are, and they saw a camera on your station where you were waiting in the bus stop. And they said, wow, they've been there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We have to send a bus to Bnei Brak. And they tried to get everyone to go. They pleaded with all the workers to go there, but everyone was scared to go there. They said, no, they're going to scream at us. They were waiting there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not going. I'm not going. But then I had a good idea. I said, you know what? I'll go. I'll pretend I'm going to a different place, to Rehovot, the 318. And I'll make them think that because they're begging me, I will switch the number and I'll go to Yerushalayim. Meaning this was all planned. For those of you who know the saying, hafuch al hafuch, over here in Israel, then that's exactly what happened. It's hafuch al hafuch. He made them think that he switched, but really he didn't switch at all. Ad kan, a true story that happened. But what does it have to do with our shtickle Torah over here? I would like to say that look, as I always say, what an optical illusion happened here. They were really thinking that they gained because they convinced him to switch the bus, and now they're all happy. 2 seconds ago, they were all crying and screaming and cursing. And now suddenly they're all happy. The same amount of sweat was on everyone's forehead. But because their attitude, because the way they viewed of what happened changed, that changed everything. And if we had this attitude, we had our hearts in sync with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be happy. And that's why He put us in this world, and every time we're happy, we're actually doing Ratzon Hashem, because Hashem put us here in order that we gain credit to get Olam Haba. And if we're happy doing this, that's what Hashem wants us to be happy. And we come to this realization that this whole world is just one big optical illusion. To give us room for our freedom of choice, to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and do Torah and mitzvahs, like the mitzvah Tzitz is supposed to remind us, then this place will be a different world. The world will be a different place. We'll be so happy, no matter what. Because just like those people, once they thought everything was going well, Because, oh look, he switched for us, we gained, everything's good now. What happened? The tzaras were the same tzar, the pain was the same pain. Just what? Now that they felt something good happened, it changed everything. If we view that everything is happening for the good, even though sometimes it hurts and it's okay to cry and everything's fine, but at the end of the day, if we have that view about what life is all about, it's all going to change. So just to bring everything back to our pasuk, the pasuk in its context is perfect. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, if you look in the tzitzis and you view everything in a positive way and you realize what life is all about, that is going to help you, because that's going to be a constant reminder of what life is all about, the mitzvahs. And if you don't, and by doing that, it will be a security net to ensure that you don't fall into the trap of not having your heart in sync. And by doing that, you will end up going achei levavchem v'achei einechem, because first your hearts, then your eyes, because you're going to interpret everything in the wrong way. Have a good Shabbos.
This was the Prisman of Torah with Reb Asaf Aaron Prisman. Subscribe to our podcast, share with your friends and neighbors. You can listen directly from our homepage, prismanoftorah.com. Our website is currently being upgraded. Thank you for your effort for your recording equipment. Technical support for this podcast is done for free by Eli Podcast Productions, Nishmas Ya'akov Alexander, Ben Mrdochai Doif.